And welcome back to our British Grand Prix preview, where we will be looking at the track, we'll be looking at the drivers, telling the tales going into the British Grand Prix, and it may well be, after Austria, fairly tasty. But the first thing we want to do, one of the most important things, is when is the race on? Well, I can tell you when the race is on. This is local time for UK. Practice 1 is on the 5th of July this Friday at 12:30 till 1:30. Practice 2 also on the 5th of July, 4 till 5, quite late in the day. Practice 3 though, 11:30 in the morning till 12:30 in the afternoon. So finishes, good time for lunch to get ready for qualifying, which is on the 6th of July, just like practice 3, 3 o'clock till 4 o'clock, or 1500 till 1600 hours in old money. And the race, yep, 1500 hours, 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. start in Silverstone. That is local time, so plus minus hours. Like Europe, I think, is 1 hour ahead. So I think for a lot of European countries like Germany and Austria, it will most likely be 4 o'clock. But that is Silverstone. That is the times. Let's get into that track, shall we? And before we get into the track, let's have a look at a few interesting stats for the track. As you can see, it is the British Grand Prix. It's 5.891 kilometres, 52 laps. It used to be nearly 60 before they changed it in 2010, with 18 turns. It is one of the fastest tracks on said calendar, on the 2024 calendar. And let's get that track map up as well, and let's get our onboard all ready to go. As you can see, we are in the Mercedes because, hey, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, they love a Mercedes, don't they? They absolutely do. So let's get into this, as we are now coming down. We haven't even started the lap yet. We're coming all the way into the Vale, now into Club, which is the last corner here. Then onto the aptly named Hamilton Straight. Yeah, this is the Hamilton Straight. Now, you can take this flat. This used to be a chicane in the old money, but it's not now. It's a really flat chicane, Abbey. Then into Farm Curve. Once again, we are not taking our foot off the throttle until now. We brake into what's called the loop. There we go. And then we take a right into Aintree, and then we have what is known very aptly as the Wellington Straight, which is the first DRS, the first of the 2 DRS zones, and then we are into Brooklands, named after a very famous racetrack, into then Luffield. Yeah, this is where Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton were side by side in 2021. Then out of Luffield into Brooklands and onto the almost anything but straight old start finish straight, as we head to a challenge which is Cops, which is just about flat. I think it'll be in qualifying. A really big challenge here, and it is a roller coaster ride from here now, because we are going to go into the first one is Maggots. Then we have Beckett's, and on the end we have Chapel going into Hanger Straight. This is almost flat, brush on the brake or feather the throttle on those 3 epic corners into Stowe, our second DRS zone, and another normal overtaking point. We had many an overtake here. We had Nam Mansell taking the lead in the 80s. We had David Coulthard taking the lead in 2000 from Rubens Barrichello as well. Into, once again, we've got the Vale, and then into Club to do this roller coaster, wonderful, superb Silverstone track all over again. And I tell you what a track it is. It is one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. Probably my favourite on the calendar. Yeah, I know you got your Japans, you got your Belgiums. I think some people, you got your Spas. I love Silverstone. It's probably because I have been here several times. But we can talk about my Silverstone memories maybe another day. So let's, though, from Silverstone memories, which we'll talk about another day, to a few facts of Silverstone. It hosted the first ever World Championship race in 1950, and it's gone on to host the British Grand Prix on almost 60 occasions since. As we know, I've told you about the length of the circuit. Races held, though, are 58. What's also quite interesting is track record of 124.303 from none other than your man Lewis Hamilton. But that same year, the lap record, though, was 1:27 in the race, 0:97 for a certain Max Verstappen. And 58 F1 races have been held at Silverstone. I said it was nearly 60 since 1950. The British Silverstones hosted the British Grand Prix 57 times and hosted the one-off 70th anniversary, which took place in 2020. During that time, 32 different drivers have won at the track. Hamilton has the most wins here at Silverstone. He's got more than any other drivers. He's recorded a record-breaking that's eighth victory at Silverstone for the 2021 British Grand Prix. There are 4 previous Silverstone winners on the current grid. Hamilton has the most victory. We've got Fernando Alonso has won the British Grand Prix twice. Max Verstappen has 2 wins. Last year, and then also the 70th anniversary British Grand Prix. And Carlos Sainz claimed his first Formula One Grand Prix win in 2022. We've also got Alberto Ascari, Jim Clark, Jackie Stewart, Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, Jacques Villeneuve, David Coulthard, Lewis Hamilton are 8 drivers who have won back-to-back wins at the circuit. Hamilton has the most consecutive victories with 4, and that goes from 2014 to 2017. British drivers have over 3 times more victories at Silverstone than any other nation. The British national anthem has played out for the winning driver 23 times. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. 3 drivers have recorded what is known as a Grand Slam at Silverstone. We've got Nigel Mansell. He holds the record for most Grand Slams. That's having taken pole, led every lap and fastest lap on his way to victory. And that was at the 1991 and 1992 British Grand Prix. Alberto Ascari and Lewis Hamilton are the 2 other drivers that have these Grand Slams. Ascari did it in 1953 and Hamilton did so in 2017. Ferrari, though, have the most wins of any team. 15 for Ferrari-powered cars have won. Ferrari also hold the most record for consecutive wins. 6 occasions. The British Grand Prix was held between, I think, 51 and 58. 5 drivers have won the British Grand Prix at Silverstone by over a lap. I mean, that's absolutely insane. But to be fair, the last time was 1985 with Alain Prost. The closest win margin was Nico Rosberg, 2013, 0.7. One of the biggest margins, let me see, was largest margin wins. Damon Hill, 68 seconds. Lewis Hamilton in 2008, 68.5 seconds. And as I said, 1952 was Alberto Ascari by a whole lap. A race at Silverstone has been won by less than 10 seconds on 20 occasions. And all the last 3 British Grand Prix has been won by small margins. We're talking all under 4 seconds. And from the last 10 Grand Prix held at Silverstone, the average winning margin is 8.9 seconds. So I've hoped I've absolutely lambasted you with all those exciting Silverstone facts. Absolutely amazing, aren't they? But let's get into the story of the drivers now. Yes, the drivers. Let's just stop the onboard. So, before we do get into our story for the drivers, I would just like to quickly share with you the current driver standings. Interestingly, hopefully you can see it here. So we've got Verstappen on 237, Norris on 156. It's a long way. I mean, let's be fair, Verstappen's still favourite for the championship. Leclerc in 3rd on 150, Sainz in 4th at 135, Perez, I think, a disappointing 5th, but there you go, 118. Then we got Piastri on 112, Russell on 111. Hamilton, I think he'll be disappointed to have only 85. Alonso, 9th in 3rd and 41. Then Tsunoda in 10th. Stroll in 11th. Hulkenberg 12th. Ricciardo 13th. Behrman 14th. Still, I mean, he's still up there. Gasly 15th. Magnussen 16th. Ocon 17th. Albon is 18th on the 2 points, and the people that haven't scored still are Sauber. Our Sauber's at Zhou, Bottas, and Logan Sargent. As you excuse me, my mouth is running dry from all the talking. 2024 constructors, we've got Red Bull leading on the 355, Ferrari 291, McLaren are catching them though on 268, Mercedes with a recent victory on 196, then we've got Aston on 58, RB Honda. The Racing Bulls, Visa Cash App, whatever you want to call them today, on 30. Haas Ferrari on 19. Alpine on 9. Williams on 2. And as I said, Kick Sauber on absolute 0, which is kind of a shame. So let's then talk about the drivers. Let's do it in reverse as we've normally done the last couple of times. Reverse championship order, starting with none other than Logan Sargent in the Williams. What's he going to be doing at Silverstone? I imagine not much. I think it'll be a bonus if he doesn't qualify on the back row. I don't think he's guaranteed to qualify in the back row. He knows this track now. All the tracks he's going to, he knows. He did have a solid qualifying in Austria. So hopefully, I think if he can be within a couple of tenths of Alexander Albon, I think that will be absolutely brilliant. Fair play. So next up, 20th in the championship is everyone's favourite Finnish driver, potentially, is Valtteri Bottas. He's behind Zhou in the championship, even though, let's be fair, Bottas really should have, I think by now, should have definitely been scoring some points. Alas, he hasn't. I expect the same for both Bottas and his teammate Zhou Guanyu, well, which is, I think, a bit of a shame. Kick Sauber, you can't. I feel that they're just almost place-holding, pressing pause for themselves until the inevitable Audi takeover, if I'm honest. But there we go. So next up, we have who may or may not be Sainz's teammates. There's rumours now that Sainz might go to Alpine, but it is Alexander Albon. So Alex Albon doing a solid job. Williams do not look as good as they did last year. So on the fast tracks, they look good. It'll be interesting to see how they go at Silverstone. They are improving the car all the time. We've been told it's very much overweight. But what can Albon do? I think points like 10th or 9th maybe. The like fringes of the points is probably the best that he can hope for. Which, yeah, is a bit sad. They haven't got as many points, I think, as they had this time last year. But like what James Fowler said is, they knew their car was fast. They kind of almost bet on those really fast races where they'd need to have a really fast car in a straight line. I'm not talking fast in general. And now they've realised that that's not the way. They want to be good everywhere. So they've taken a step back, and they expected maybe to be worse this year in some ways than others. Once again, that car is still overweight, so I think when they sort it out, it may well get interesting. So next up, in 17th in the championship, is Esteban Ocon, who had a solid Austria. Yeah, he did get beaten by his teammate. They did have a fight. It was hard but fair. There were no issues there. I think Alpine could spring another surprise once again on the outskirts of the top 10, I reckon. So we've gone from Ocon in the Alpine to Magnussen, who's 16th in the championship. Kenan Magnussen, as I can't spell his name. Really, really good race in Austria, as you know. Could score points. Yeah, absolutely, they could. But I think they're in that same group as both Williams and, you got Haas in that group, Alpine. And just on the teetering above that group, I think, is RB. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think points definitely potentially on the cards, depending on how the race goes. And that includes Mr. Gasly there, the other Alpine driver, who's 15th in the championship. Points again, potentially for Gasly, but it's going to be in the lower ends of the points. It'd be interesting. They could, though. It wouldn't surprise me if one of the two end up getting in Q3 and into that top 10. So we've got Oliver Behrman in 14th, but he's not racing. But the next guy is. And it is Daniel Ricciardo. Once again, the pressure is going to be on Daniel Ricciardo, but not as much as it was going into Austria. He showed in Austria, he beat Tsunoda. Well done, Ricciardo. He's gone okay here at Silverstone before, so I reckon he'll beat Tsunoda here again. Hopefully he's on a roll and he's got his confidence back. He needs to beat Tsunoda, I think, with Tsunoda being etched in for that contract for next year. He really does need to do a good job, and a good job I predict he will do. Points, once again, on the fringes of those points. I think the car itself ultimately is a bit better than the Alpine and the Williams and the Sauber and the Haas, but only just. So they need a mistake. I think Ricciardo needs a mistake-free weekend, because beating Ricciardo in the championship after his absolutely stunning form that was, it was beating him anyway, but I think his stunning form that was in Austria, Nico Hülkenberg, the Sauber-bound German driver, once again on the fringes of the top 10. If this guy, though, got into Q3, good old Hülkenberg, I don't think I'll be surprised at all. So just outside the top 10 is 11th, and it is going to be, drumroll please, while I try and find him, is this guy here, Lance Stroll. I think just getting a solid Q2 performance will be good. He could sneak in to that Q3. The issue is both him and Fernando Alonso, that Aston Martin is really, really struggling. But I don't know why. no one really knows why. They've put go faster bits on it. It seems to be like a worse scenario than last year. When they started, at least last year, with a really solid car compared to the competition, it was the second best car, without a shadow of a doubt, for the first few races. And then the development, they kind of like did a Ferrari, in, you know, an old school Ferrari, where they just pressed the reverse gear, which is a massive shame. And someone that can't afford to press the reverse gear is Yuki Tsunoda. RB has put their faith in you, Yuki, with a brand new contract, and then you don't do particularly good at Austria. I expect a much better performance in Great Britain, although I think Ricciardo might well have the edge. It's just a gut feeling, though. I'm not using science or anything by that, but Tsunoda's currently 10th in the championship. And we then go to 9th in the championship is Fernando Alonso. Yeah, what a year he's having, or not. I've always said, the second he signed for the Aston Martin, what he described as a long-term deal, he's done absolutely rubbish for Fernando Alonso, on Fernando Alonso's levels. His teammate has beaten him, or it's got a lot closer to him, which you can say is fair play to Stroll, but I can't help but feel part of that is there's something wrong with Fernando Alonso, something wrong with the way he feels about the car, and he has been quite vocal about it. Will we get angry Fernando? Who knows? Now, 8th in the World Championship, you might be surprised to hear, and I was a bit shocked, is Lewis Hamilton. But then when you look at his results, yes, he had that podium in Spain, a really solid result. He was nowhere in Austria. I think he got damage on his car in the race. He got that 10-second penalty, and he normally, you know, you'd normally expect Hamilton to be there, to be the one to capitalise on anyone's dodgy performances, any issues happening in the race, but he wasn't, and he finished 4th in Austria. Having said that, it is Silverstone. I think Hamilton, I'm going to say he is an outside bet for the win if there are any shenanigans. If Hamilton has a perfect weekend, nails the setup in the practice session, gets a solid qualifying, doesn't have to get pole, but is up there on the top 2 rows, I honestly feel, even the top 3 rows, Silverstone is one of those weird races that he has a chance of winning. And if Lewis has a chance of winning, I've pretty much got to say that I pretty much have to interlude that George Russell has a chance of winning as well for the Silverstone Grand Prix. The winner of Austria, he was there when it happened. He was there to capitalise on any mistakes, was George Russell. He's currently 7th in the championship. And once again, he is good at Silverstone as well. I think he is also a slight outside chance to win, should there be any shenanigans. So we now go to McLaren's Oscar Piastri, who so could have won in Austria, had the pace to win in Austria. It was just that qualifying faux pas that we got that penalty that sent him back. But I think an outside chance of winning Silverstone as well. He did out-qualify Lando, didn't he, I think, last year. We know he's fast there. So maybe not an outside chance. Maybe I'll say a chance of winning if the cards align and he has an absolutely, like Hamilton, a perfect weekend. So there we go. So next up we have someone that's 5th in the championship. And I mean, Max has nearly doubled his points, hasn't he? Poor Sergio Perez. But he's 5th. I don't think he's going to win. He just needs to sort it out. He needs to get into Q3. At minimum, I think a podium or a top 4, I think Red Bull would be happy with at this point. But he's been one of the more disappointing drivers of the year since he signed that contract. Oh, Sergio. Hopefully, though, he knows Silverstone, but then again, he knows Austria. I just hope he wasn't happy with the car in Austria. Hopefully, he is happy with the car and he can show us what he can do. But as always, I've got some reservations. So the other podium finisher, excuse me, is Carlos Sainz, who I'm just finding now. Yep, he finished on the podium in Austria. I think both Ferraris are an outside chance of finishing, although I can't help but feel that Mercedes have also taken a step, and there's a chance that Ferrari going into Silverstone could be the 4th fastest car. At one point they were the 2nd, then the 1st at Monaco, and they've slipped down to 3rd and then the 4th fastest car. Having said that, once again, if they get everything perfect, who knows? I do think a podium, potentially. A fight for the win, I'm not really so sure. And that also goes for Charles Leclerc, who had an absolute mare of an Austrian Grand Prix and didn't even finish in the points after getting busted at the first corner. An absolute disaster. But let's be fair, he's the guy that, when Verstappen had his issue in 2022, he should have won, and Ferrari screwed him over, and that's how Sainz ended up winning. So he's got the pace. I think he will be better than Sainz going into the Grand Prix. And once again, a very outside chance of winning. I can't help but feel that both Mercedes have a better chance of winning than both Ferraris at the moment. But currently third in the championship. Now we get to the top two of the championship. Yep, after Austria, the two friends. I mean, imagine this. I think Lando Norris is up there with favourites with Max Verstappen. I wouldn't say equal favourites. I'd say he's the second favourite to win. Although I would love Norris to win the British Grand Prix. Will he? I'm not too sure. It all depends on how solid that McLaren is and how good it is on its tyres. On talent, absolutely he can win it. But he's going to need the car. They didn't have the car in sprint qualifying in Austria. They nearly didn't have the car in the race. Max Verstappen was fastest, and it was only that pit stop and the fact that Lando went on those medium tyres. New medium tyres compared to Max's old, that he had a chance of winning that race, and let's be fair, should have won the Austrian Grand Prix had it not been for that whoops-a-daisy by Max. But I think it's going to be really interesting for Lando, and this is a bit more like Spain. It is really hard on the tyres, like Austria, but I think it's harder on the tyres. They do, I think they do bring the hardest spec tyres here, which means that the McLaren seems to be better at looking after its tyres. So that may well be very, very interesting. But we've got here the world champion elect / potential villain for the British crowd. If you're a Lando supporter, Max Verstappen driving, well, up until Austria, absolutely fantastic, mistake-free. And Austria put him in a position where he was under pressure, and it almost feels like 2021 again, doesn't it? It may well be going into the race. So it's going to be really interesting, the psychology between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Lando now must be feeling what Lewis Hamilton felt when he raced against Max Verstappen. Are we going to get another incident? A cops? Who knows? I don't think so. But I think it'll make for a really interesting race if they are really close to each other. Once again, I do feel that Red Bull potentially still have the best car if they can get the setup right, and Max Verstappen can make the most of that car. But Silverstone is going to be really interesting. Max just about favourite, I think, going in, but only just. Like Lando to win, I think both of them need a perfect weekend with no mistakes. So I think whoever makes less mistakes is going to win. And when I say mistakes, it's like, getting stuck behind traffic in the race, getting a breaking point one and missing a 10th in qualifying. I think it's going to come down to those absolutely fine margins. So that's pretty much it for our British Grand Prix preview. If you liked what you see, please, oh please, give us a subscribe. That'll be absolutely fantastic. That'll give me a big smile, and I'll think you are a world champion in my eyes. If you want to give us a like and subscribe, or a like and comment, or all three, well, then you're going to be a multiple world champion. This has been the Hot Lap. We will speak to you soon. Thank you very much.